Welcome to the More Perfect Union, the podcast that offers real debate without the hate. And we are sponsored by BetterHelp.com. Hi, I'm Kevin Kelton, and tonight I'm joined by three absolutely new people. Greg Matusak.
I'm in such a foul mood. I tried to order SpongeBob popsicles this week. It turns out some 7-year-old pissant ordered all of them in the entire country on his mom's credit card. So pissed. But hey, good for him.
I haven't heard that story.
Oh, you
Ward
haven't?
Anderson
it's
is
great.
here?
It's great. It's a serious story. Some kid got his mom's Amazon, ordered like $2,500 or something crazy. Best thing. Thing is, I still can't get my SpongeBob popsicles. And couldn't return them.
Ward Anderson is here.
The John Lovitz of the More Perfect Union podcast. I'm in a perfectly good mood, despite the fact that my wife and I are trying to figure out how to deal with all these charges for these SpongeBob things on our credit card.
And Emily Galati rejoins us.
Yeah, I was going to also make a SpongeBob joke, but I feel like they've all been taken.
Isn't that your favorite form of birth control?
SpongeBob, yeah. It got housed
The
in the
SpongeBob
90s.
sponge. What a natural. Oh, my
Yeah.
gosh.
The SpongeBob sponge. No, I'm sorry. I was trying to quote one of her jokes. It's the new ring. Isn't that
Nuva ring.
Don't you, That was it. You have a joke about the Nuva ring.
Well, now you got to, I hate to put you on the spot because I'm an ex-stand-up. I know how bad that is. But now you got to tell us.
I mean, do I even remember that joke? It's so old. Oh, man. It's something about
she went into a Hobby Lobby. She goes, I walk into Hobby Lobby and I pop birth control right there in the front of the store. And she goes, you know how hard it is to swallow a Nuva ring in front of everyone?
Something like that, yeah. It's a Hobby Lobby joke.
So, interesting week this week. And before we get to the important news of the week, we're going to start with something that has absolutely no importance at all, which was that Elon Musk hosted Saturday Night Live this week. For some reason, this was a giant kerfuffle in the zeitgeist. Did anybody here see it? Am I the only one?
I saw it.
Okay. Oh, first of all,
I've got it on the DVR, and I will watch it. I usually do. It sounds crazy. I watch Saturday Night Live on Mondays, but I do not understand why everyone gave a shit about this as much as they did.
That was what I was going to ask. I like to think that I'm a somewhat informed person, and I know who Elon Musk is, and I know a couple of things about him, and that he's somewhat conservative, and he's moving his company from California to Texas. But who gives a rat's butt? Why shouldn't he host Saturday Night Live? Can anybody explain to me why so many people are upset?
I didn't get the whole thing either. Look, he's essentially, I get why a lot of people don't like him, right? He's essentially a dude bro billionaire, right? Like if a frat boy becomes a billionaire, it's Elon Musk. And that's why a lot of people don't like him, right? It's the opposite of Bill Gates. Bill Gates seems like a geek and a genius and a nerd who becomes a billionaire. And a lot of people hate Elon Musk because he comes off like like a douche with billions of dollars.
When you see the monologue, you're going to eat those words. Greg, what did you think?
No, I said that's why people don't like him. I'm like you, though. I don't actually know a whole lot about Elon Musk. I started reading more about him.
Disease.
Well, I mean, obviously, I know who he is. I'm not saying I don't know anything about him, but my point is, I went and had to start reading shit about him to find out why everyone was so angry about this hosting thing.
So right. I've actually he was featured on a podcast last year that I listened to called something the
Joe
best.
Rogan?
No, that one. Well, that's also something. Yeah, because he was. I don't listen to the Joe. He was
on the Joe Rogan.
It's very kind that you think
podcast.
I listen to the Joe Rogan show. I'm that guy. No, there's a podcast called Behind the Bastards, and he was featured on it. And whether he was featured unfairly, which, because they do features on like Adolf Hitler, Stalin, and Steven Seagal, I don't know if he's on that level. And yeah, that Steven Seagal one is pretty bad. But some of the stuff he has said and some of his really controversial works, he has said things like he believes he could cure autism through technology, which has really kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially people in the autism spectrum. And he was an anti-masker at the very beginner, and even said it was a conspiracy. And you're right, it is kind of douchey, it is kind of broy. A lot of people felt like how Trump was on, and it kind of humanized him and kind of made him like, hey, he's this goofy kind of great guy.
The Donald Trump appearance was in 2015, after he had announced that he was running for president and after he had made his comments about Mexican rapists and whatever. And yes, the big complaint was that it normalized Donald Trump and helped normalize him. And Jimmy Fallon tussling his hair, everyone said that was more of that it was everyone treating this scumbag with kid gloves. Okay, and I get that, but that's a guy running for president. My point is that Elon Musk is a billionaire businessman, and he did Saturday Night Live. The list of douchebags who have done Saturday Night Live is very long, okay? Steve Forbes hosted Saturday Night Live, right? Ralph Nader hosted Saturday Night Live. There's been all kinds of non-performer celebrities who hosted. Fucking Edward Koch, Rudy Giuliani hosted it. You know what I mean? Like it's, and that's, I just named politicians, but I don't see what the big deal. Yes, and there's been conservatives, and there's been assholes, and there's been business people, and all of that. I'm not saying anyone has to like Elon Musk. I don't give a shit. I'm just saying it was a silly thing for people. People were furious about this, that Saturday Night Live was going to do this, where I go, am I the only person that knows that this show's been doing shit like this for 40-something fucking years?
And then the other thing is, there was part of the controversy was that a couple of the cast members had tweeted about it and made snarky comments. So people thought maybe some of the cast members aren't going to show up for the show because they're protesting this booking. And I knew what was coming down because I worked there. They all showed up because they all want that airtime and they want the check.
I believe there's only been one cast member to actually boycott a host.
Nora Dunn.
And Nora Dunn, yeah.
Boycotting Andrew Dice Clay hosting the show.
Nora Dunn, Andrew Dice Clay.
And that was a beautiful career move. Yeah. Although at the time I understood why she was.
Sure. But I mean, like I said, I don't know. I want to know what Emily thinks. Emily's the current touring comedian of the group, and by the way, if you guys get the chance, I'm going to just keep repeating it. Emily's not just a friend of mine. I'm a fan of her work. If you get the chance to see her, you want to see Emily Galati live. You will not be disappointed. But I mean, I don't know. It all seems kind of silly to me. I'll be honest with you. I care way less about Elon Musk hosting SNL than when they put on some of these athletes that can't even read the fucking cue cards half the time. You know what I mean? What do you think, Emily?
Yeah, I didn't understand the hate for it. He's not running for president like Donald Trump was. That's what
I mean.
Yeah,
he wasn't running for an office.
Implications. But yeah, how many bad people? Yeah, you've said it all. How many bad people have hosted SNL? You talked about assholes who have hosted. I'm like, wait till you hear Chevy Chase was in the cast.
Yeah,
they paid him weekly. There have been terrible people who have hosted it.
Chris Christopherson hosted it drunk. Yeah. Incoherent. You can't even find that episode.
Most of the time, I'm not even excited for the host anyway.
Right.
Rarely. I was like, I get why you did it. It's May. It's your Mother's Day show. It needs to be big. I understand, having him host it exactly what Lorne Michaels wanted to do. It got publicity. It got extra publicity. More people tuned in. It did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, Saturday Night Live has actually had a giant ratings fall. And this is kind of interesting because without their cold political openings, which a lot of people really liked, and without Alec Baldwin doing Donald Trump, they have kind of, shot down in their ratings because it's just not really that exciting and or fun. They're kind of veered away from politics. Some people say because they lean left and want protect the president, but a lot of people feel like the White House is kind of boring. I mean, there's only so many shots you can talk about, like, giant Biden, small Carter pictures. I mean,
it's not exciting like the Dwight Eisenhower years.
Yeah.
Ward,
boy, don't get me started on Ike.
I
love it.
I just want to say, I've also heard. I've been reading. Some people have also made the prediction that the ratings have dropped. Not just because, they don't have their political cold opening because Biden's not as much fun as Trump was to blah, blah, blah. What I've heard is a lot of people said the ratings have dropped because they felt even SNL went too easy on Trump, that they painted him as kind of like just a buffoon, as a silly buffoon, and never really satirized him and never really went into the danger of having that guy as the president, that they just kind of played it as, look at this dummy. Look at this dumb guy. They made him lovable.
I fall into that category. I fall into that philosophy. I was kind of concerned that they were going to help him get reelected because at some point the impression becomes lovable, just like the Bush one did.
Yeah, people started to like Dana Carvey's George Bush, right?
Yeah, but I'm thinking of Will Ferrell's W. Yeah.
That too. Look at, people liked Gerald Ford more because of Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Right? So, what I find interesting is every year, a couple times a year, but at least every year, there's some article or something happens on SNL and the articles come out and you get the typical Saturday Night Dead. And you get the, it's just not funny anymore, and blah, 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 blah. And then they'll do this Elon Musk thing, and people will be like, they're just doing it for publicity. I'm like, this show is an institution that's been around for 45 years. Yes, they know how to get attention and publicity. They absolutely do. But like I said, to act as if this is all some kind of scheme is just silly. SNL always goes for people in the public eye as their hosts, and so, yes, it makes sense that they would go for it, Elon Musk. I promise you they put the offer out there to Jeff Bezos at some point, too. I'm sure it's gone out there to him at some point, too. He'd be
great. He'd be great.
Well, I tell you, a lot of people have heard this. You'll hear it a lot in interviews. You'll read it in interviews. Lorne Michaels and the cast despised Steven Seagal. When he hosted, I guess, in 1990 or 91 or whatever it was, 89, 90, around then. But I just want to say I have friends that were at the taping of the Steven Seagal hosted episode, and they said that you could feel the hatred towards him from the audience. Like, you're sitting in the audience, and they said you could just tell the cast and everyone just hated that guy. And I think that's wild that you could tell from the audience when the cast is like, we don't want to be here with this dude.
Well, speaking of people that no one wants to be around, Trump is still off of Facebook.
I'm part of this show.
So Trump, I thought they were going to reverse themselves this week, Facebook. They did not.
I did too.
Some oversight board studied this thing and said that they can keep him off another several months, maybe 6 months or something, and then at some point Zuckerberg and his people have to kind of set standards for when they ban people and what those standards are. So I'm going to go back to you, Greg Matusak. What are your thoughts on this? Is this a kerfuffle over nothing, or is it actually an important part of history?
Well, this will be a ruling because Trump will make it a ruling because we've never had this before. And the board, I believe, was the Illuminati. It was one Rothschild. It was one lizard person. It was the ruling monarch of the Hungarian, Austria, so on. I mean, it was like a nobody court, to be quite honest. And if Zuckerberg and Twitter heads, and if they all say, you know what, this is all great, but we're going to take our ball and go home and ignore you, they're just going pretty much because it's a private company and that's all fabulous. They will come out with a timeline, and but the timeline could be 15 years. They could, and by that time, we'll have a mental Facebook, and I mean this will all be outdated. And who cares? But the best part, yeah, go on because you guys will do the best part.
Well, I don't know what the best part is. So
the best part's coming. The best part's coming.
Okay. Emily, you have forsaken Facebook in your life.
Yeah, it's great. Living without Facebook, it's great.
So you told us a little bit about this before the show, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. But so why did you? I mean, most people, social media is a big part of their daily lives. You, who are essentially in the public eye or the public business, are avoiding that type of exposure. Why?
I mean, the 2016 election made Facebook awful. It was a terrible place to be, and I think sometime after that, 2016, 2017, I just was like, I'm going to try to go without it. And I think I've made 4 posts since 2017, if that, and it's so much better. Your life is so much better when you just stop.
What does one do in their life if they're not on Facebook? What do you do?
Twitter. I've actually gotten really into TikTok. It's terrible.
Oh, really? Okay, you'll have to teach us because I'm
she's
so
on
old,
Friendster.
I really know what it is.
Yeah,
Emily's doing Friendster and Foursquare. That's all she does.
I don't. I don't make TikToks. I just watch a bunch of them. It's super addicting. I don't make them, but yeah. I mean, and then I don't know. I just knew it was like being on Facebook wasn't making me happy, so like kind of getting off of it was a choice. And then the more I've learned about Zuckerberg and the whole business, the more I'm like, I wish I could get rid of it completely, but it's the one way a lot of people still get a hold of me. So I just use the Messenger, and that's about it. Like,
I have such a love-hate relationship with Facebook because it is such a great place to go to a lot of times to get news. What's going on real quickly, right? Without necessarily going to a news site where you're going to get like the headlines of the last hour or something. A lot of times you can go onto Facebook and I just start going down the news feed and I can figure out what's going on in the world just by what people are posting in their status updates. That's the part that I like. And also, being able to really quickly see what's going on in my friends' lives, friends and family members, and I often do that. Hey, cool. Let's see what Kevin's doing. Hey, this is what Greg's up to. That part of it is great. That part of it has always been great. But the negativity and the division and the vitriol and all of that we've seen in society and politics, it festers on Facebook. It breeds on Facebook. And I've pulled back from it drastically. I was the guy that was always on Facebook constantly, all the time since 2007. And funny enough, it was just the past year that I pulled back. It wasn't even 2016 like Emily. You know what I mean? And this is from a guy, I mean, Kevin knows this. I think Greg maybe knows this. But remember, because of Facebook, I had a very legitimate death threat against me where, we had to leave my house and stay somewhere else for a while and everything like that, So it is very toxic in many, many, many ways. We've all seen that. So it's such a love-hate relationship with me because at the same time, when I meet people that are like, I'm not on Facebook at all, I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are and how you exist.
Have you also gone back into your history? Like they have your 5 years ago today, you said this, and you're like, why did I share this or think this was important? There's nothing I've looked back on and been like, that was really good. I'm glad I told the world that. There's nothing there that's never happened. So it's fine. I don't need it.
Sometimes you get that memory that you're like, oh, that was kind of cute and all that. And then there's those ones, especially when you go back 10 years. It's like 10 years ago, you said this. You're like, yeah, I'm glad you told me so I could delete this so no one else will ever know that I said this 10 years ago.
Yeah. I think there's 2 or 3 things that I'm like, oh, I'm glad I remember that happened today. That's about it. There's a joke I wrote that's on there, and then...
Yeah, I end up laughing at my own jokes again.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I don't even mean something offensive that you're afraid is going to get you in trouble or anything like that. Just a bad take on something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've had those posts come up where I'm like, yeah, really? I said that Ben Affleck was the best Daredevil. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it'll just be something kind of where I'll go, oh.
I literally had one
good.
like 3 days ago where I just went on and on about Lost, this TV show Lost, like about how important it was to me, and about how there was this week it was a repeat, and I was like, quick, say something confusing to me, or else I won't get through this week. And I was like, oh, well, that stayed relevant to me.
Did we run this Trump stuff into the ground? Is there anything more to say about him
his
and the
blog?
GOP?
That's the only other thing.
Yeah, he started a blog, right?
Which,
like you said, he thinks it's 2000.
I mean, I think I had a blog in high school. I mean, it seems like it was that long ago. Who has blogs? I mean, he's had months and months to work
the
on
best
something.
he came up with was a blog.
Was a blog.
He thought about it.
I mean, millions, according to him, billions at his fingertips and a media empire. We thought he was going to start like another Fox.
Yeah. He found out blogs are free.
And a blog. I mean, that just...
I'm excited. I think he's going to open up a video store next.
Great.
Okay, so in Utah, the GOP voted to not censure Mitt Romney.
Yeah, he was booed, though.
But he was booed at CPAC.
No, booed
was that
at
where
the...
it was?
No, so Utah had their State of the State.
Oh, that's what that was. Yeah, I saw the video.
Their state convention, Republican convention, which, for the record, is not a fun place. There's not a lot of laughs.
It's basically a family reunion.
Yeah,
isn't it?
pretty much. Everyone's related. There's like four toes per foot. Yeah, he gets up to speak, and they all boo him. But he did not get censored. Depending on
censure.
So, yeah, censure.
Yes. So Liz Cheney, it looks like she's probably a dead man walking in her conference chair. Now, again, I do not understand why anyone other than people with the last name Cheney give a rat's ass about this. Look, it's not that she's going to lose her seat in Congress, although she will probably have a primary challenge in 2022. They're just removing her from the leadership, which means nothing to the average voter. It means nothing. It means you won't get to see her standing behind Kevin McCarthy when he says nonsense.
Okay. Whoa. There's huge repercussions of this. Okay.
No, there isn't. What are the huge repercussions?
Okay, first of all, we just talked about the fact that Mitt Romney didn't get censured, okay?
Right.
And she's about to lose her party standing, okay? And there's two pronouns in there that should make everybody cringe, a he and a she, okay? She's getting screwed over by the party, and he's not. And that shouldn't take anybody by surprise. That 1, 2. The modern GOP is not taking gruff from her and she is saying this happened and we should accept it, right? He said this happened and we should accept it, and they're like, oh, well, you're Mitt Romney, so that's okay. Okay, and
sexism in the Republican Party. I'm not sure. Emily, what do you think? Is that wild?
I don't think it's ever happened in the Republican Party. This theory is dead on arrival.
I'm sorry. I'm going to put my tinfoil hat back on. Okay, so that's A. Okay. B, it is a leadership post, and she is conference chair. So when they do the RNC, she is the conference chair. She's the one who gavels people in and out at the conference. It's a huge thing because remember at the last conference they said we really don't have a program, we really don't have a thing, we're just going with whatever Trump says. Wow. It was one of the big yeah, okay.
You're talking about the convention?
The convention.
Where they didn't have a platform?
Yep. So the number 3 spot, okay, majority leader, whip, conference chair. That's her. Okay, she's the one who gavels.
No, but I agree with you, Greg. I agree with you, Greg, that it's a big deal, but it's a big deal for her. It's like Kevin said. I don't know why anyone else will really give a shit in the Republican Party. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a Republican, so I don't care one way or the other. But I don't see why Republicans themselves would care. I see why she would care, right? But I don't see why Republicans would.
I care, because literally it's saying that half the country is saying, you know what, there's some point to this whole, maybe the election was stolen.
Well, yeah, they think it. That 40% of the country buys it.
But they keep buying it because half the leaders keep saying it's true, and the one leader and the 14 leaders that say no, it didn't happen on their side keep getting like, oh, obviously they can't be seen. You know, this is garbage. You know, they all have a target on their head. Right.
Absolutely,
so
a price on their head. The difference between the two parties is the Democratic Party is Don Quixote. They're always tilting at windmills. They have this idealized vision of the world. They get nothing done. And the Republican Party is Don Corleone. They keep the family together, and if somebody goes against the family,
they get Fredoed.
Yeah,
they get Fredoed. So, Don Quixote, Don Corleone.
That's a good point. That's really good.
Not that I like the Republican Party, but they play their game very well.
And they're playing hardball.
Yeah, and they're playing it better than Democrats. They're playing a different game than Democrats, but they're keeping everyone in line. They're keeping the lie they keep perpetuating the lie. That's the game they need to play to win.
Here's where you have to admire the Republican Party, seriously, in all of this, because we are talking about it, and like Greg said, Greg goes, half the country does this, and then, Kevin, you said 40% of the country, blah, blah, blah. And it's actually not even that many people. Republicans aren't actually half the country. And that's how good they are at what they do. They control as many states as they do, despite the fact they don't represent more people than Democrats do, or as many people as Democrats do. All right. But Republicans are, and have been for years, a minority party. But this minority party that manages to stay in control because they know exactly how to get everyone in line. And if you're not, they cut you loose. They turn on you, and they get shit done. Shit that we don't like, that we hate, that is awful, but they get it done, right? And Democrats always have, so many great ideas and a majority of the country behind them, and they don't get it done. And it drives me crazy.
Yeah. So let's see, what else is there to talk about? The Biden administration wants to get 70%, at least 70% of the country having had at least one vaccination shot by July 4th. So will that constitute herd immunity? And is it doable? And does anyone care?
Of course I care. I mean, 70% would be a huge number. I think by the FTC, is that right? CDC. Thinking about banks or shit. The CDC is talking about lowering the vaccine shot to 12 to 15-year-old, and that might happen as early as June.
Pfizer is looking to give it to kids 2 to 11, right?
Yes, there's a study in. They're looking to get the go-ahead to do a study now, and if that does happen, that could happen as late as fourth quarter 2021, which that could be a game changer too. I mean, kids could go back to school with almost no excuses. Schools could say, "Are you vaccinated?" like they do already. I mean, my kids couldn't go back to school without a vaccination, and if they didn't have a vaccination, they had to have a reason why they didn't have a vaccination. They had to have a religious excuse, or they had to have a note from their doctor why we didn't have vaccination shots. Our vaccinations fell out of time one year, and we were told we had 2 days. Otherwise, our kids couldn't go back to school. We could do this again. I mean, how awesome would that be?
Yeah, but the problem is, politically, it's a non-starter. Emily, what's it like up where you live? I forget. Are you in Michigan or Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Yeah. So, what's it like there in terms of the politics and the culture of wearing masks?
You know what? Everyone's pretty good about wearing masks.
Really?
It's been honestly, yeah, I think so. There might have been some blow-ups on the internet, but for the most part, yeah, I think everyone's been.
But you also live in this city, right? You live in like Minneapolis.
Yeah, I live in Minneapolis. Right. I mean, didn't we riot last year with a bunch of masks on? We've got different political things going on here right now. That the masks really is a very small thing. No one's upset about the masks in Minnesota. It's not the issue. Everyone's concerned about.
I did something very radical last night. I don't even know whether I should say it on in public where people could hear this, but I'm going to confess. I went out to dinner with my fiance and 4 other people, and we ate indoors at a restaurant. It's crazy.
You are the downfall of America. I played a gig last night. I actually had a gig at a high school. Asked one of my groups to play at their jazz concert. So I played, and I saw a former student, and he's in college now. And he came over, and he wanted to shake my hand. He was like, well, hello. And first thing I said is, are you vaccinated? He said, oh, no. I kind of knew he wouldn't. He was that guy. And I said, well, I'm not going to shake your hand. And he was like, oh, of course. And I said, how's your first year of college? He goes, oh, it's terrible. It's just awful. This remote learning this is not what I thought college would be. And I said, well, you want to change that? He said, yeah. I said, go get vaccinated, you asshole. And then he said, you can't talk to me like that. I said, I'm not your teacher anymore. You're in college. Grow up. Did not like that answer. Did not like being an adult.
But I liked it.
He did not like being an adult.
So what else is there to talk about? I don't know. Biden and the refugee cap, he raised it from the 15,000 to the 62,500, which I guess means that we're still being lenient on how many migrants can get into the country. Is that legally or illegally, or what is that? I don't know. Greg, do you know?
Yeah. That's how many refugees we're accepting.
Legally.
Okay. So I mean, we're accepting 4 times as many. The census data says that we could probably even take more. And Biden had gotten that information and had made that pretty much before this decision was made. I think it's a good number. I think it will be raised probably within the next 3 to 4 months. And I think
above 62.5.
Yeah. Watch for, if you ask me, by the end of this year, it will be up to 80,000.
Okay.
I think this is really what many people were waiting for. The Trump administration brought it down to almost nothing. I mean, especially compared to the size of America and our resources, these are people who are coming and saying, look, I need refugee status. And they're saying, oh, sorry, we hit our limit. We hit our limit in the first month, 15,000. Are you kidding? And then they'd either have to go home or wait. So yeah. The progressives have been waiting on this for a long time. And this shouldn't have taken this long. This is my one gripe about it. This should have been done in the first week. And the fact that it wasn't kind of pisses me off.
So we've gone through politics, and frankly, nothing in here is really that jaw-dropping. Is there anybody watching anything interesting on Netflix? Or anybody have anything coming up in their lives? You're going to have to turn your mic on, Ward, before I can go to you.
Well, I want to say, I do want to say real quick about what we were just talking about a little bit, the refugee thing and immigrant thing and everything. I think one thing that's going to be interesting to watch over the next couple of years is something I posted on Open Fire. And for the listeners that don't know, we all belong to a group called Open Fire, Politics and Entertainment. You can find it on Facebook, and it's where we discuss all the issues and where the More Perfect Union podcast was born, where it came out of. I want to say, I posted this week that we need immigrants, that America is actually falling behind as far as its immigrants go, because there's a generational gap and there's an age gap. And Americans are getting older, and we're not bringing in enough laborers. We're not bringing in enough workers. and we're going to need more immigrants, right? Same thing's happening where I live in Canada. Canada is actually an old country, and Canada's had to increase its immigration quota for that reason, because the population in Canada is getting older and it needs more workers to come in and take over, right? And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with all of this, because we actually need immigrants in America. And the other thing that's happened is we've seen in the recent job reports is that during this pandemic, a lot of low-wage earners, people who have low-wage jobs, have suddenly begun to realize that they'd just as soon not work those jobs. Yeah. We're hearing right now about all these labor shortages and everything like that. And Republicans are working like crazy trying to cut off unemployment benefits to make people go back to taking jobs that pay really poorly, these low-paying jobs. But this is something that we're starting to see, is that the workforce is starting to go, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to work this awful job, because all of us in some degree, I think we can all agree here, haven't we all during the pandemic learned to live off a little less, to spend less, to consume less? Well, that's happening with the workforce too. You know, people are starting to go, yeah, I need a job and everything like that. But turns out I'm actually, not as bad off by not working. People are finding ways to
get by, sure.
Yes, sure. Yeah.
And, the other thing is, and I know I'm preaching to the choir with you guys, but the Trump tax cuts, especially the corporate tax cut that dropped it from 35% to 21%, which was supposed to be balanced off by closing loopholes, but they didn't close any loopholes. They just dropped the corporate tax rate. And of course, we now know that created a $1.5 to $2 trillion hole in the federal debt, the deficit. And the companies just pocketed the money. They did it through stock buybacks or just raising cash. And they should have been taking some of that money and increasing salaries and increasing wages. And they're going to have to do that. And if they don't do that, then they're going to find their corporate tax rate is going back up, as we've discussed previously on this podcast. The last thing I want to do, I want to come back to politics, because I was thinking about this today. We talked about this last week. I was pro-Biden all along. I think generally he's doing a good job. I know a lot of people would take umbrage with that statement. But I really don't understand, ever since they passed and he signed the Pandemic Relief Act, they've been talking about this infrastructure bill, and nothing is getting done. And I can see what's going to happen now. We're in mid-May. We're going to be in June. It's going to be the congressional recess soon. And this whole thing is going to be kicked down the street until the fall. And then you're 1 year out from the midterms. What are they doing? Get a bill now that you can get Joe Manchin and, John Tester to vote for, and pass the damn thing. Don't shoot for the moon, because nothing is going to get done.
How is there not one? The thing that always kills me about this, whenever, we switch administrations, is people be like, well, now it's time for everybody to get that infrastructure bill written. I go, we've been talking about this shit for like 20 years. How? And many of the people in Congress have been there for longer than 20 years. It's not even a matter of, why don't they sit down and bang out an infrastructure bill? They should already have one.
I'm going to interrupt you. The problem is, if they wrote a real infrastructure bill that was just infrastructure, they could get 10, 15 Republicans to vote for it. The Democrats, and, again, I lean left. I don't call myself a liberal, but I'm certainly not, Joe Manchin. But they filled this thing up with way too much pork, way too much spending. They coined this new term, human infrastructure, which is bullshit. That's a nonsense term. You want to add a little extra money for internet cable? Fine, do that. But all of the other spending, they have to pare it back down and get a bill through before Congress convenes for the summer. If they don't do that, nothing is going to get done for the rest of the administration. And McConnell has already said he's going to block anything they do anyways. So they have a very short window to accomplish something. Otherwise, they'll have that one bill will be the entirety of the Biden, first term.
Yeah, see, I don't think it's, traditionally pork would be termed as stuff like, oh, hey, I see you need a post office in your district, or I see
There's
you need...
stuff like that in there.
But there isn't stuff like that in there.
Yes, there is. Go read the bill.
I have read it. It's not like, oh, you need a specific thing in your district for that.
Okay, that's pork. Okay.
That's pork. All
okay.
right. That
but
would
there's
be
a lot of there's a lot
stuff.
of spending programs.
There are a lot of spending programs because these things are needed. And you're right. It is far-reaching. You're right. It is ambitious. It is. But you know what?
It isn't going to get passed.
Wait. Who's that party? That's the that Cervantes book. What is that? Don Quixote. Right. We're the Don Quixote party. We're the one that's going to... I hate to use your words against you, but we are looking to change the country here.
It ain't happening. It ain't happening. What do you mean we're looking to change the country? It isn't going to pass.
Biden sees himself right now as this FDR moment. Like, perhaps we could transform America. This is a new TVA type situation. We could, we can actually put people to work because right now people need jobs. This is a moment.
Apparently
and you're right. High-speed internet. And there's a whole section for like elder care. I mean,
right. Listen, in the abstract, I'm all for that. It doesn't belong in this bill.
It definitely belongs in this bill. I mean,
okay. Well, real debate without the hate.
Hold on.
You just got it.
I'm watching Emily like on the edge of her seat. What do you think?
Oh, no, I just need to be real close to the microphone. You guys told me
at
to
any
be real
moment,
close to the microphone.
I'm hoping she's about to say, "Go, Greg, go get it."
Well, now we're putting you on the spot, Emily. Which of us is more wrong?
Nothing's gonna get passed. That's how it is. I don't think anything's gonna get passed.
Me.
I mean, I wish they
so
would.
Would
and
you
in some ways,
support a smaller bill that was under $1 trillion instead of a $3.1 trillion bill if it had a realistic chance of getting passed?
Yeah.
But,
At this point, I'm more for passing legislation, even in smaller increments, than going for the home run and striking out every time.
Yeah.
Get base hits. Let's get base hits and get a runner in by the fourth year. Like, that's honestly what I'd rather do. Like, I'm just so tired of not getting anything done at all.
Yeah.
And
all right. What about if we get rid of the what's it called? The
Filibuster.
Thank you. I knew we were simpatico. What if we got rid of the filibuster?
It terrifies me. It terrifies me when you're going to mess with those rules, but I don't think Republicans would give it a second thought. I think if they were in this position, they'd get rid of it.
Right.
I don't know.
But Greg, I go back to when you say what if, what is the mechanism to get that done when you've got 3 Democrats who said they would vote against that?
I know. We give them pork. We give them a nice post office in their district. I mean, all of a sudden we have to do some Don Corleone stuff. I mean, we'd say, hey, that's a nice bridge you have in your, and it'd be a shame if something didn't go right with it. I don't know.
Okay.
This is the game. The Republicans and Democrats are playing a completely different game. Completely different.
We're playing badminton, and all of a sudden they're playing Major League Baseball.
Yeah, for sure.
And there is good pork that's put into these bills. That's true. But Kevin's right. There's also a lot of nonsense in there that doesn't need to be in there if we want the important stuff to pass. It's not that it couldn't be helpful somewhere, but it's that the rest of the bill isn't going to pass because of that.
Right. It's not that I'm against that spending. I would love, again, like I said last week about Elizabeth Warren, if I could have pressed a button and made her president, I would have. If I could press a button and get that bill passed, I'd do it. I'm just telling you, it's the old 80% of a loaf is better than nothing.
All right, what okay, I don't want to, we were so simpatico for a second, and I don't want to say that I take umbrage with the word nonsense, especially since I don't know if I understand most of those words I just said. But what would you consider nonsense And it's not to put you on the spot, but
There is a clause that the Democrats put into the infrastructure bill that would bring back the TV series Alf for a whole nother season because they feel it didn't end
I'm
right.
it didn't end well.
See, there it is.
How is that controversial? This is
The police came. He was supposed to go back to Melmac. He was supposed to hitch a ride. He said his goodbyes, and then, as far as we know, he's in a lab somewhere. Yeah, I mean, for Christ's sake,
I knew you would know. I knew you would know the end of Alf. I knew that. That's so great.
Of course I know.
It's and to be fair, I can't tell you off the top of my head because it has been a few weeks since I read a lot of this, right? You know what I mean? But it was stuff that was.
Well, I've got it right in front of me. I'll tell you some of the stuff. Okay.
I was going to say stuff that's good stuff, but it's just not going to. Okay, it's going to keep us from passing.
But not nonsense.
So okay, it's not nonsense, but it's not pure infrastructure. Okay,
yeah. What I mean by nonsense is I mean stuff that's not important to the majority of the people in regards to an infrastructure bill. That's all I mean.
That doesn't relate to infrastructure, and you're stretching the definition. Okay, transportation, $621 billion. Yes, most of that is clearly infrastructure. Okay, next, just going down the list here. Home care services and workforce, $400 billion. Now, look, I'm older than all of you. I want there to be somebody taking care of me when I'm in my 80s or 90s. I would love to see that get passed. But it doesn't belong in this bill. It simply doesn't belong in this bill. Manufacturing, $300 billion. Biden wants to put $300 billion toward boosting manufacturing. Well, I'd love to put, $1 trillion towards boosting manufacturing. But what does that mean? Let the private sector do it. It doesn't belong in the bill. Housing, $213 billion. I'll call that infrastructure. I'll say let that go forward. Research and development, $180 billion. To upgrade U.S. research infrastructure and establish the U.S. as a leader in climate science, innovation, and research and development. Again, a nice to have, but it's not a must have.
Well, the problem is once you start talking about climate change, now you're just begging Republicans not to pass the thing. Of
course. $100 billion for schools to upgrade existing buildings. Now that is, in essence, infrastructure if you're upgrading buildings and facilities, but does it have to be in this bill at this time?
I'm okay with the school part.
The school thing, yeah, because I actually see schools.
Guys, we're all okay with it. It ain't gonna pass this.
No, but that's
I know,
exactly,
but I don't think that one. I don't think that
where,
particular one is controversial. I don't think the school.
No. I mean, I literally visit schools where they're still using the same schools from like 1940s and 1930s, and it's and schools in Ohio are funded by property taxes, and it's ridiculous. It's unconstitutional actually how schools are funded in Ohio, but that's another story. Especially buildings.
I mean, I'm just surprised they have schools in Ohio.
Barely. It's mostly someone's garage. We rotate.
Well, look, I'm going to step in and be the Liz Cheney and gavel this meeting closed because we are running long. But I want to thank you guys for being here. I want to thank our listeners. Please look for us on Twitter at MPU Podcast and on Instagram at MPU Fan Club. We also made what I think is an amusing little animated promo. We want to thank Ward Anderson for animating us and bringing us to life as cartoon characters. Although
award-winning, the award-winning
animator, Ward Anderson. What was the award that you won this week?
There were two. The animated music video for Matt Dusk's song "Summer Wind." It was accepted into the 2021 TV Fest Film Festival, television festival, and it also won Best Music Video in the Red Movie Awards out of Italy.
Wow, that's really cool. And it is a really fun video. And if you can find that, probably it's, I would imagine that's on your Facebook page, if not your own website, Ward.
Yeah, it's everywhere. If you just Google Matt Dusk Summer Wind, you'll find it.
Okay. And like I said, he turned us into cartoon characters, although I like to think that we actually turned ourselves into cartoon characters a long, long time ago. But there we are in color, and that was cool to see. So with that, I want to thank everybody for listening, And last thoughts, Emily, what's big on your agenda for this week?
Nothing.
Getting that stand-up mic, getting that plug-in mic, that's your goal this week.
That's my goal this week.
Greg Matusak, what do you have on tap, other than beer?
Yeah, a root beer, that is. I'm going to try to be the next guest host for Saturday Night Live. I haven't decided whether I'm going to be a boring political type or amass a fortune and say controversial things like Elon Musk. I'm sure either one, they'll accept me. I could just become talented, but that sounds like a lot of work.
Okay, that's a podcast.
Okay.